are here on a Sunday watching a little bit of football in the background, and we are having our second episode. And it is a topic that's really fun to talk about. What we think could be the breakout player of 2021. This strange, shortened NBA season by about 10 games, but so far we've been blessed to watch some basketball. Even among this crazy COVID pandemic. So why not have our second episode about who we think the breakout player of the year so far and who we think it will be at the end of the season? I mean, it's a great topic. Alex, thanks for joining me again. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Beau. Of course. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, so we've got four players for you guys today, with a pivot to possibly five or six if we could get through it. But last time we're chatty, so we don't want to keep you too long. So first off, we're going to go ahead and start with one of my breakout players, who is going to be Jeremy Grant. First and foremost, Jeremy Grant was actually not even on my list when I started looking around for some players that I wanted to speak about today, which is pretty hilarious. But I ended up putting him in here because it's too hard to just look away from this man. Very interesting career, and I've got him pulled up here in Basketball Reference. And one thing, just want to sit back and notice is, and Alex, I love these players that come in at 21, 20 years of age. I kind of just was like, my mind was blown. Like, he's been in the league. This is his seventh year going in. So it's just kind of strange to look at that and just be like, man, 7 years in and he's only 26, just going into his prime right now. You just told me before we started that he's a quote unquote vet, which is kind of funny when you're 26 years old. I mean, the guy is 4 years younger than me. I wouldn't necessarily title myself as a vet in life. So it's really funny that they're a vet in basketball already. But uh, regardless, got drafted by Philly at the age of 20, and had a, I mean, he had a solid first 2 years as a rookie. I mean, but like I'm saying, I mean, they moved on from him, and he had what? He played for Philly and OKC and got traded. There wasn't too much to speak about. He did get to start in Philly at a 21-year-old, and obviously, didn't do too much on the court in 27 minutes played. But again, he wasn't really focal point there. And then, as probably most of you guys watching know, he was with OKC, and that's kind of when I think of Jeremy Grant. I mean, I don't really remember too much of his Philadelphia time, to be honest, and I didn't really care to like watch him. It wasn't someone that I thought, oh my gosh, this guy, I think that he's going to be big or anything. But I do think that most of us remember him playing with that OKC squad. And again, he went on that team, and he was a role player. I mean, if you look at his 17-18 season, no game started. He was behind the big boys, and a solid role player, what you'd call maybe like a defensive role player, going to get you a few buckets out there and get you maybe a block a game. And then that opportunity arose for him to actually get some starts later on in his career, about his fourth season, 2018-19. That's where I'm going to start and kind of start showing you guys some stuff. So 32 minutes played per game, started 77 games, so most of the year. The guy shot an awesome clip from the floor. Now, mind you, he's not the number one offensive player on this 2018-19 team. So he was able to shoot a really nice clip. He didn't have to shoot the ball very much, but again, if we just take a peek over here and just take a look, he's a great defensive player when he's on the court. I mean, he's going to get you 1-1 hopefully every night. Put in 13.6 points per game. He's a plus rebounder for 3/4. He's probably more of a 4. He could probably play 3 through 5 depending on what team you're playing with nowadays in small ball. But his original position as a small forward, not bad at all. He's not an exceptional three-point shooter at all. He shot 39% that year. And if you look at his career, 35%, he's going to be around 35 to 37 on a good year if he's not chucking up too much shots. So, I mean, he's not going to be that three-point player you want. When you think of 3-and-D, he's going to want to get his shots from somewhere else if you're shooting this clip. But still, you got a small sample size of what he could do in 2018-19 as a full-time starter. Well, let's move forward a bit. He went to Denver, and basically what's really funny is he basically reverted back to what he was being used as primarily his entire career besides that 1 year. So if you're Jeremy Grant, he kind of went full circle, a really weird full circle. And I know that I mean, personally, this Denver year had to feel some type of way to him.
I think it's interesting you bring up his positional eligibility too. In that OKC year in 18-19, you have him playing 99% of his minutes at power forward. And nowadays you see him play a majority of his at small forward. He's playing 58% this year at small forward. He's just been so flexible and athletic over time. Philly in the beginning even played him a few minutes at point guard. They had him 32% of the time at shooting guard. So
yeah. I mean, in today's in how basketball is played today in the NBA, I agree with you. Position eligibility. I mean, he can. I wouldn't say point guard, but I mean, depending on the team, he could play 2 through 5. I agree with you. I definitely don't think that he should be power forward most nights. Like you said, I think that small forward is where he should make his money. But being his size, he could play all over the court. But I personally like him shying away from shooting too many threes and getting in that mid range and really finishing at the rim. Like you said, he's uber athletic. So when he can finish at the rim, when you can have some pick and rolls and some lobs up to him, the more efficient he's going to be. But yeah, that is a super interesting topic about how he was playing the 4. I mean, do you think he's naturally a 4? Because I really do.
Like him more at 3.
Yeah, I like him more at 3.
He's a great catch and shoot shooter. So if you can get him 3-point opportunities off the catch and shoot, that's where you want it. And I mean, as a career shooter, he's 38%. He's above league average. This year, he's getting most of his buckets unassisted, and that's where a lot of this inefficiency kind of belies. Of previous seasons, he's been more of a journeyman player, as you've kind of touched on.
Yep.
And that's got him touches from decent point guards, and he's been a catch and shoot shooter and been reliable. And I feel him mixing that part of his game with this new kind of shot creator Brandon Ingram style of game
absolutely
might help him take another step even.
Absolutely. And I bet if we were to pull up Brandon Ingram's numbers this year, while the percentages would be extremely worse than Brandon Ingram's, I think the counting stats would be uber similar. So that's an interesting name that you point out. And I don't see why that's not a guy that have in his mind to think about trying to play. But regardless, and I don't think he's gonna I don't think he could be. Do you have Brandon Ingram's percentage at 3-point this year?
Yeah, if we're being honest, he's shooting 46 from the field. Yeah. It's not much of a jump for him to take. He's a 37% shooter from the 3-point arc. It'd be a decline. They're averaging about the same numbers this year. It's just people are viewing them as two much different players because of their situations.
Exactly. And then moving on to this year, comparing it to that clip that we got 2 years ago in OKC where he was starting. I mean, if you take a look, and Alex kind of pinpointed a bit, he's going to slightly decrease in 3-point percentage, but we can't really look at that too much because, again, he's a career 35% 3-point shooter. So he's honestly shooting above his clip. We're probably not going to see that increase at all. We also can take a look at his field goal percentage. Again, 44%. That's below his career average, and that's below the last 3 seasons. So that's but like you said, he's taking a lot of shots and he's playing a different role than he's ever played before. he's ball handling more. He's got the ball in his hands more, just in general. And to be honest, on that Detroit team, we all know Blake Griffin is washed. He's the number one offensive player on this team. So we don't have another sample size to compare Grant on a team with him being the number one offensive option.
And the sad
So
thing Grant's going through right now is, he's been used to point guards such as Jamal Murray last year, Russell Westbrook before that. Now he's working with
Delon Wright,
Delon Wright and Killian
yep,
Hayes
and Hayes,
and Derrick
yeah,
Rose. And so
yeah,
you're not seeing the great catch and
yeah.
shoot opportunities he's used to in the past. So seeing
No,
this decline in field goal percentage is almost assumed here.
yeah, and he's playing a different type of of ball that he's never had to do this. So we kind of are going to want to see how this materializes this year and how it looks next year, if he's even here next year. But if we just take a look at his counting stats, 24.3 points per game, almost doubling what he did in that year. I'm very happy to see that he's got his blocks above 1, because it should be above 1. He really should be bringing his steal stats up too. And total rebounds, I'll say this, they should be higher. But we'll see if he can bring that up. But 6.4 rebounds from a guy this athletic, I think he's so focused offensively that we might see him decline defensively. And I hope not. Because like I said, I think this guy is uber athletic and he could be a defensive stud for his team. But if you just take a look overall, his free throw percentage this is a huge mark here. If he can keep that up, that's tremendous at 84% clip. I think that will end up climbing down a bit. But if he can keep that up, that's another huge thing to see him as a breakout player of the year, because that's almost a full 100% or a 10% increase, which is tremendous.
The thing that's most important for me is I want to see him become better at making his teammates better. And with the ball in his hands so much now, the way to get easier shots is getting your teammates involved.
Agreed. With the lack of talent, but sure, I still agree that he needs to become a little bit more of a facilitator in this particular role that he's on this Detroit team. I don't necessarily think this is the perfect fit for him forever, but with talent-wise, there's not much talent on this team. But I agree that if he's going to have the ball in his hands so much, we do need to see him get his teammates involved more. But speaking of, before we move on to our next player, do you have any thoughts about Grant going anywhere else potentially, or do you think this is a good place for him to kind of sit and start his kind of upward trend in solidifying him as a well-rounded starter in this league?
So, it's well known this year he passed up, an extension from Denver. He passed up a lot of offers he had from playoff teams to kind of bet on himself here. Now, I don't think anybody really bets on themselves in the hopes that they become the star player of a shitty team. I think that he's trying to come full circle and he's trying to get that contract where he has played like almost an all-star caliber player, but then he can work his way back to a playoff team with a larger role than he's being offered previously.
Okay. No, I like that. That's pretty fair. I think that he could end up being a really solid asset, and something that is interesting to think about is, Detroit's not going anywhere anytime soon. So I don't know what you could get for Grant, but I'm assuming if he kind of balls out like this, you might be able to get back more than he's actually worth.
Yeah, with the John Collins, Trae Young situation getting worse by the day in Atlanta, it's possible if they're desperate to move them that those two can get swapped. They both offer similar upsides and similar flexibility based on their size.
Yeah, so interesting player. Let's all be rooting for Grant, because it's really nice to see him out here in a role that has been much deserved and worked on through the 6 years of his career so far. But how about you take us to our next player?
And this guy I've been dying to talk about since he was in college, man. Colin Sexton. He's shooting it more. And if you look at that Cavs team, it's not like he's surrounded by, a bunch of talent where defenses can't hone in on him. he's getting this done with a lot of the attention being focused on him. They're trapping high. He's still pushing through doubles. He's splitting screens. He's doing a great job with the ball in his hands. And it's pretty indicative by how his efficiency is going. If you look last year, he shot a fantastic clip. He was 47% from the field, 38 from three on 20 points per game. And this year, he's elevated his scoring, as I said. He's at 26.8, but he's on 52% from the field and 47% from three. He's basically, and maybe the 3-point percentage isn't sustainable, but at the current time, that's Kyle Korver from three, and that's Karl Anthony Towns from the field. So you've got a hell of a player at the dynamic position, and pretty much the only knock on him now is defense. And it's good that they brought JB Bickerstaff in. It's obviously going to help them defensively. He comes from the Memphis tree and the Pop tree. And so it's hopefully we can watch as his D rating, tends to get better with the team defense, that maybe it opens him up offensively more as he's given less responsibility. Is there anything that you see with him that's, something that stands out this year?
Well, I mean, it's simple. It's just averaging 27 points a game at 22 years old pops off at the page for me first and foremost. But again, he's the number one option on the team. But what I really like in this team is, and what I think really helped him is, I like Garland added to this team. I think that Sexton is a great player when he's got someone like Garland on the floor with him, opposed to Sexton being the primary ball handler point guard. I love that he's even listed as a shooting guard this year. I like that he's a point guard / shooting guard. I think that he's more natural.
That's what its splits dictate, because and that's probably the biggest change is with Garland incoming. Now he's not playing 100% of his minutes at point guard. He's actually 43% of the time at shooting guard. It's opening up his scoring a ton. It's giving him a lot more catch and shoot opportunities. It's just making him more efficient, which is scary for somebody that's already above a Chris Paul level of efficiency.
I love that. I don't know how, I don't have a player in mind or off the top of my head that I could compare him to, but I definitely think that through his career, it's going to be very, very important for him to have a player like that by him that can be more of a pure point guard. I do not think that Colin Sexton's a point guard. I do think that he should be playing a certain percentage at point guard and shooting guard. So Garland helps. If one ever moves or he moves, it's going to be very, very, very important that he has a pure point guard by him.
Previous to taking Garland, they were in the talks of getting Drew Holiday before he signed with Milwaukee. And I thought it's a good fit for them because Colin Sexton's lacking defensively, and Drew obviously substantiates that. And he gives you that pure playmaking production from the point guard position, which you're kind of seeing that draft pick from Garland embody what they wanted from Drew Holiday. And it's definitely freeing him up more. If you look at Sexton, he was one of the worst rookies we've ever had in the NBA. When he was in March of his rookie season, he set the box plus minus record for the worst box plus minus in NBA history. That's taking everybody into account from the modern game. And it's insane. He attributes it to a thing that happened to him in practice where he was saying that his teammates would yell at him for pump faking and taking one dribble and shooting mid-range jumpers. And he looked into the stats and he found he's only hitting 34% of those shots. And a majority of them were contested. So he started eliminating that shot more, and he started relying on his already solid three-pointer. Now, it's not that his three-point rate has jumped off the page. He's added a few percent there. And he's basically mitigated those mid-ranges and more layups, more threes.
His three-point percentage has.
His three-point percentage has gone up, but the amount that he's taken hasn't.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I mean, maybe it's possible that he keeps a high percentage like this because he's getting more catch and shoot opportunities.
Do you know something else that pops out that each year his field goal attempts increase, right? Naturally, especially if you're the leading scorer on your team, sure. But guess what? His field goal percentage increases each year. Now, 52% is not going to happen this year. I don't think that he's going to be a 50% shooter from the field. But I do think he'll finish better than 47%, which was the previous year. And each year he's taking more shots. I love that trend. Like, like I said, I think he's going to become more of a pure scorer, and I don't think we're going to see an upstick in those assists much, which could kind of concern me. But again, we're talking about a guy that's more of a you know what? First name that comes across my mind right now, and I don't like comparing players to this because no one is him. Sweet Lou.
Sweet Lou.
I mean,
Maybe a little better defensively.
Oh, sure. But I'm saying what I think that Colin Sexton could turn into, and I'm saying they're not the same player, but I see Sexton as someone that could really be a bucket and be a scoring machine with that upside defensively, sure, and kind of drop off that pure point guard. Like I said, I think that he'll end up being somewhere around 70 or 80% shooting guard and just 20% of the time point guard when he gets to what he should be. But I see that as him being a premier bucket in this league. And that could get him far. So
I definitely see him as a more of a Donovan Mitchell type, where you have somebody that they tried to bring in as a pure point guard, and you just see the playmaking
I like
ability.
Donovan Mitchell. I like the
Isn't there
Donovan
as a
Mitchell.
primary?
I like
It's
that.
similar. They brought in
Yeah.
Conley to substantiate
Sure.
that point guard need in the
Yeah.
same way that Garland was brought in the Cleveland situation.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at some of Sexton's advanced stats from the last couple of years, he's absurd. He has a 56% true shooting percentage last year. He's upgraded that to 614.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only people that have ever shot above 600 true shooting percentages are centers and LeBron James. So, having such a high rate of three-pointers, making them at such a high clip, getting these catch and shoot opportunities, I think the ceiling is way high for Colin Sexton. I don't even know if we've found even the scratches of it yet.
No, I mean, let's just hope that, if he stays on Cleveland, that they can get this ship looking solid. I like some pieces there. There's some pieces that are old and need to move on, but no matter what, the Garland Sexton allows Sexton to be who he is, which I really enjoy watching. So, I mean, I'm sure that 79% free throw percentage also is just a hiccup. I'm sure he'll get it back up to his career number.
And I think an interesting thing about the team situation is they're interested in moving Drummond now, especially with the acquisition of Jared Allen. And when you go to move Drummond, you're moving $30 million off the books. If they are to get a good player in that return, it's possible that this is a playoff team overnight.
It is. I agree. But I love it. Colin Sexton, shout out. Hopefully we can continue to see him thrive with the Cleveland Cavs. Now we are going to move on to honestly my favorite players to watch. Reason being why I chose him as one of the players to air on this episode. Now, by all means, he is definitely Grant or Colin Sexton in terms of the usage rate and the role on his current team. However, there are still some really good points to be made for Boucher in terms of just the overall breakout opportunity that we're seeing this year in a very interesting story for a very athletic, long type of player. First off, if you just look, first, he has never started a game in the NBA. So he's definitely going to not be the same caliber of player that we're talking about with everyone else that we're noting today. However, I think that he could get there. And just by what he's doing in the small amount that we've seen this year in 15 games played, I'm hoping that we someday get to see Chris Boucher actually start some games here in Toronto and see what this guy, because he is must watch TV. If you've never watched him play, it's absolutely just exciting. It embodies that fast paced player that can just play defense. He's flying around blocking shots. But anyways, let's get to it. He played one game for Golden State when he was 25. He's a 28-year-old now. And now he's been in Toronto for a while. He's a big. He's about 6'9", 6'10", so he's a little small for a center. They list him, I think, officially now as a center. I think of him as a power forward center, but in today's NBA, once again, he can easily fill in center, especially with Toronto, or he can come off and Pascal can play center for them and he can come off the bench, which is what he's doing right now. He played a lot of games last year at 62, and really, honestly, didn't do too much. Now, remember, he only played 13 minutes a game, and with that, he showed us what he could do slightly with a block a game. He got you a few buckets and a few rebounds, but there was nothing that popped off the page that was absolutely amazing. He does love to shoot the three ball and space it. He shot 32% last year, and as a big, 47% from the field isn't that amazing. It's because he was taking those threes. I mean, he's shooting a 56% clip at 2% at the shooting for twos, but Toronto needs him to space the floor because you know what Pascal's trying to do. You generally know what Lowry's trying to do. So it really fit for him to space the floor. That's why Toronto had Alex Len, and he just got dropped, and he just got picked up by Washington. So that was a failed experiment from Toronto, and I think with that dropping, we're going to see the next stage for Boucher. Now, this year, in 15 games, we've finally seen him play 23 and a half minutes per game. That's still not a lot of minutes, but he's smashing in the usage in 23 and a half minutes. The man's shooting 58% from the field, which is absolutely awesome. That's what we kind of want from a big guy. 49% at three, that's an anomaly. That will go down. I don't believe that he increases three-point percentage that great, but the looks he's getting with this current team are much better than past years. So I do think that it's going to be an increase, but that's a wild increase. It's an anomaly. It'll probably go down. Hopefully he can increase to somewhere around 40%, and that'd be significant. Next, I mean, he's getting you 14.8 points per game. He's getting you the 2.3 blocks. He's flying around. If you haven't watched him, he's flying around, blocking shots like crazy. He's increased his rebounds 6.5. I mean, he's an okay free throw shooter. Lo and behold, I think that if we see this guy get per 36, which he'll never play 36 minutes on Toronto, but a per 36 right now with his stats, he's a 22-10 with 3.5 blocks. Also, his total plus minus, which is amazing, is 6.6. And what's even more interesting is I believe his offensive box score plus minus is 5+. So, and he's still positive on the defense too. Whereas the previous years in his career, the other three, let's just say two, because that first year at Golden State doesn't really count. They were all negative box plus minus. So, I mean, he's an intriguing player that's smashing what he did in his previous year, which is why I think that he could be a breakout player. And let's say he gets some starts and can push that minutes per to maybe 27 to 28 minutes, because we all know that I don't think that he can handle 30 minutes a game or even stay away from foul trouble per 30. But I think that if you could get him 27 or 28 minutes off the bench or starting, we could really see a special player blossoming at a very strange age of 28. What do you think, Alex?
And I think Boucher, maybe the field goal percentage is sustainable.
I said the 3-point percentage isn't. I think the field goal percentage is sustainable.
Yeah, I'm sure he's not going to shoot 49% for the year, but now I do think he is going to take a considerable jump. What we see with him is taking a different volume of shots, where he's now transitioned from taking 3-point shots from the top of the key to taking a majority of his attempts from the corners.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Whether that's because Toronto's moved Pascal more into the block, like you're saying, and letting him inside out and moving Boucher to more prominent 3 point areas, I think this gives him better looks. And a really interesting thing about him, 100% of this man's jump shots are assisted. He's not getting anything off the dribble.
Never.
Everything is catch and shoot.
Never.
And
Yes.
it's an interesting case about him is he only had 2 mid-range shots made all last year. He's already quadrupled that. He's one of the interesting cases that you watch take a few more mid-range and that open up some of his offense. As I said, he's only catch and shooting. It's
Yeah.
not like the guy's going to catch it from the
No.
3 point line, take a hard dribble, and take a mid-range. He's now just set himself up in spots he can be more efficient from.
Well, you just mentioned that. That's Pascal, what you just said. Take a hard pump, dribble, get the that's Pascal in this offense. But yeah, you're right. Boucher, it's probably going to be assisted or 95, 90, because if you watch him, it's going to be a pick, pop up, shoot the three, get to his spot. He'll roll to the basket. There'll be some oops made. Absolutely. And then when he sits in that zone, yeah, he can hit that mid range too. But I mean, he's not trying to dribble or put it on the floor too much. You're absolutely right. It's just like Nurse just does not want to. They were trying to do this experiment with Alex Len, and Boucher just continues to outplay every center that they start above him with. Baines and Len are the same player. They were trying to just space the floor, and Boucher is showing them how it's done. So it's
And I
very
feel like they offered what Boucher didn't previous to this year of he is a terrible screener. And now you watch him take a major stride in that this year, and it's definitely helped his game. As you said, it's getting those pick and pop looks. It's making more playable. He's playing the other centers out of the rotation. It's been nothing but a benefit to him.
it's and I mean, you've watched a few games, right? You've
Yeah,
watched him play
absolutely.
this year. I mean, isn't it just fun to watch him play? I mean, it's
Yeah,
just fun to
he's
watch.
Rashawn Holmes with the jump shot.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Just fun. Must watch TV. I hope that we have some nationally televised Toronto games in the future because the man is just it's just fun to watch this guy go. He can rumble off 6-7 blocks in a row. I mean, he's fierce. And I love the Rashawn Holmes comparison. Not just about his abilities, but the energy level. This guy's a walking energy bubble, kind of like those rare guys you get with Montrezl Hizzle, with Rashawn Holmes, Boucher. They all bring that energy.
The exciting thing about him is what separates him is he's a now 49% shooter from three.
Yeah, I mean it's insane. Let's just say he keeps that clip up. No doubt, breakout player. I mean,
yeah, he's in contention for most improved player in the league at that point.
exactly. So let's see what it is. Guys, if you haven't watched Chris Boucher, you've listened to me and Alex repeat ourselves. He's fun to watch. Go watch him. Alex, who do we have next?
We got my vote for most improved player this year, and it's Christian Wood.
Christian
And
Wood.
man, he has taken a huge statistical jump. Now, a lot of this jump was seen last year after the All-Star break when Detroit kind of freed up their offense a little bit under Dwayne Casey. I think they had some management issues there where they're kind of going away from playing Christian Wood, wanted to develop some other players. But towards the second half of the season, he really got loose. And you can see it in stats. He's 57% from the field last year, 38% from three, well above league average in both, highly efficient. That's only on 13 points a game, and at that time being an above average rebounder for the minutes he's playing, 6.3, but not playing, fantastic defense and turning the ball over quite a bit for how little responsibility he had with it. This year, you see the percentages decline with his usage, almost doubling. And you see him still holding a good clip at 53% from the field, 36 from three. So now he's moving more back towards league average, but he's putting up his superstar usage. He's 23.5 points per game and 10.5 rebounds, and he's delivering the defense this year, limiting his turnovers to only 2 a game when he's on Houston, and he doesn't have the most talent around him. And a lot of that's attributed to Houston buying into this kid. And I said in our previous video, they got the steal of the offseason signing him. It's absurd that he's going to make less money than most role players in this league, and he'll be an all-star for a couple of these seasons. The biggest change that we see was he was used a lot at power forward in Detroit. And that's a lot of Dwayne Casey wanting to go huge, wanting to have big interior defense, wanting to rebound really well. It's obviously what hurt him rebounding. And now he's playing 99% of his minutes at center. And
Correct.
he's really embodying that Morey ball kind of philosophy that's left over in Houston. And he's giving him that ability to go five small. And that's why you see them part in recent years with more traditional centers like Capella, who we just talked about. Um, for me, the thing that's interesting about this case is you're not seeing a big jump from the player. You're
Hmm.
basically seeing the same thing from last year, just more of it. The percentages have gone down, as I said, and it's really reflective in his true shooting. Last year had an absurd 66% true shooting. He's basically getting you 2 points every time he attempts a shot.
Oh,
And now he's down to 597, and it's still an elite clip, but and maybe that has to do with the pace of Houston, which they're actually a worse offense than Detroit was last year, interestingly enough. But in his PER, you're seeing the same player. It's a 23 PER player, and that's an all-star. It's not that he's going to be contending for an MVP. We're never going to see him escalate to that kind of player. But an interesting thing that I kind of bring up as a knock on him is as we're seeing this usage almost double, we're not seeing him get to the line anymore.
yes.
Um,
I was just about to mention that. What's up with the decrease? I mean, he's shooting free throw attempts per game, not even one more than last year, but his free throw percentage has dipped significantly.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting. And a lot of people are blaming a lot of the residual impact from James Harden leaving. Of that, maybe the referees are tired of giving Houston calls. They're going to treat them more like rebuilding teams now, where you see a more faster paced games. Referees are more letting them play. And it's interesting, though, you see him come from Detroit, which you'd expect that to be the case there. Um, there's not really a great explanation for it. He's settling for his jump shot a lot. You're watching him take a lot more in the mid range, a lot more 3 point attempts. And, with the overall minutes that he's playing, maybe he just doesn't have the energy to go to the rack. He's still undersized for a center. Maybe the physicality isn't there at this year. Maybe another season, and he gains a little bit of weight. That helps him a little more. He's at 214 now. 240 is probably a good weight.
Well, one thing I don't know if I truly like 4.8 3-point attempts per game from him. I mean, I know what he can do there, but I'd like to see that increase from his career of a little less than 2, but I don't think we need to almost triple it. I'd like
Well,
that to. I'd like
what's
that to.
killing me is the looks that he's taking. Now, last year we watched him take 28% of his 3 point attempts from the corner, and he's hitting those at 39%, well above league average. This year, you're seeing a huge declination to only 10% of those attempts from the corner. He's shooting an even better clip, 50% this year, but he's only getting 10% of his attempts there. And where you're seeing these attempts fall is in the outside mid range. He's starting to take these from 16 feet to the 3 point line, where he's taking 12% of his attempts now, in contrast to only 4% last year. And he's shooting those at an abysmal 20%. So
Yeah,
his coaches need to point that
yeah.
out.
A lot
They
of a
need to
lot of what
eliminate those
yeah,
mid range.
I agree. A lot of what I'm hearing is maybe he could be utilized even better than he is right now, and it would make him an even more efficient player there.
Absolutely. And I mean, we're yet to see how him and John Wall mesh. This is only their, fourth game together. So,
Yeah,
we'll see when
sure.
he does have a class distributor like that. If he is getting some more spot up threes, if they can slot him in the corner more. Now, I don't know what their plans is playing him alongside Boogie Cousins. If he rotates back to four, may help his efficiency, but he's going to be shooting more catch and shoot attempts. Now, are John Wall and Boogie Cousins pick and roll is going to get him free enough to be utilized in the corner like that? Or are we going to see more of the Kings basketball where it becomes just a two-man game and three players are kind of isolated out? What do you
I don't
think?
know. I don't know. I would say this, and I know you're probably against the idea, but I would like to see if they could have a John Wall Boogie, Woods starting team, like those three starting, and see if it can work. Because I'll tell you this, experimenting wouldn't hurt, and if Boogie's willing to go back to a more dominant interior force, and Woods could get to that 3-point section that he's more efficient in, I think it would be very interesting to see if they could play together. And now I'm not saying a large amount of minutes together, but I'd like to see them start together, and one of them, Cousins obviously, would peel off around the 6 minutes to go mark, and Woods would play his full first quarter, make a rotation kind of like that. I think they could work well together like that. I think that you could put who's the better stretch player? Obviously Woods, right? So
Would, yeah, and it's
Boogie has no problem playing the offense that's needed as a 5 on the offensive end. The issue would be defensively if you played those two together, because one of them is going to be stretched out, and I don't think it would be rough. There'd be a lot of switching going on. Cousins doesn't really have the feet like he does. I don't think he can move in the outside anymore. So it wouldn't look good on the defensive end all the time. But I would like to see that happen. I think that they could make something interesting happen. And both Boogie and Woods can shoot the three. The Clips wouldn't be great, but you have to respect both of them. You can't just leave either of them just wide open. So it would create some mismatches for sure.
Now, my concern with playing him alongside Boogie is you move Christian Wood towards a more Kevin Love development. And I don't know if that player is as valuable as Christian Wood can be. I feel that if you move him towards gaining a little bit more weight, kind of solidifying this small ball center, you may have something like Karl Anthony Towns in a smaller package. And I think it provides a more dynamic output to them rather than limiting themselves here and kind of banking on this current roster being a playoff team.
I don't think that if they start together, it has to be a large amount of minutes together, though. I don't think that you have to go all in there. I think that if you play the rotations right, you can experiment with that for about 3 minutes a quarter, and I don't think it would hamper Woods too much, his development anyways. I still think that you could get what you just wanted out of him, like a small package cat. But you could experiment, because it might make your team slightly better those 3 minutes, or it just give a different look. And at the end of things, it would be not hard to just scrap that whole idea together if if the output just isn't what you want it to be when you're running that experiment. But I agree with you. I don't think that that should be a lineup that they have on the court for the majority of time. But I think that if you have them, on the court 6 to 10 minutes a game together, I don't think it hurts.
Absolutely, and it's interesting to see if Houston continues to get younger here, and if they move Wall and DeMarcus Cousins, what Christian Wood's responsibility levels will be at that point, who will be paired alongside him. There's a lot of interesting possibilities coming up for Houston that we touched on in the last episode.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely have to just keep an eye on them. But looking at where we're at, I think we'll just end it there with those players. That was 4 intriguing players that we think could end up being in a breakout fashion for 2021. I hope that all 4 of them can continue, in what we think that they're doing so far, and get to where they need to be. So far, this year's been crazy. A lot of basketball ahead. I'm pretty excited for our next episode as well. I believe we may do another trade episode coming up sometime next week. That should be pretty exciting. And I will try to annoy your boy Alex over here and try to get him to co-host one of my daily golf videos this Wednesday. So if he's on, let's cross our fingers and see if he'll get on with me. If not, you guys will find me Wednesday night trying to build a better lineup than I gave you this week. Shout out to Tony Finau, though, for trying to get that dub. Alex, anything else to add for today's episode?
Nah, I'm just excited to see these guys be the finalists for most improved player.
Let's go. All right, guys. You guys have a wonderful day. Enjoy your football, and we will see you sometime next week.
Take
Adios.
care.